Hey, friends and neighbors in the Bronx, nice to see you. We're here for an episode of In the District. A lot of people may know, some people may not know, that Bronx Day in Albany is Tuesday, March 10th. And it is a day, a celebration, a strategic platform to elevate voices of the Bronx, to spark partnerships and drive real outcomes for Bronx-based businesses and organizations. And on this program, we're going to feature one of the presenters who's going to talk about a topic that's real important to us all, and that is insurance, and that includes all the different kinds of insurance that we deal with. It is my pleasure to welcome Larry Kahn, who's an insurance producer, which I've never heard before, of the Hilb Group.
The Hilb Group.
Hilb, that's what it's called.
Hilb Group.
I won't ask you where it's from.
That's okay.
Just go back a little bit. You've been doing this for a very long time.
Yep.
What inspires you about doing insurance? Why do you do it? And then we'll bring you to Albany and talk about what that's all about.
Well, what inspires me to do insurance is the helping of people. People, when it comes to insurance, are very confused. They need help in understanding the policies, the languages. I try to make it very simple. I try to really make it very easy for them to explain. But the other thing, too, after the policy is written and sold, I'm there to provide the person service, answer questions, help them if they have issues. And the most important thing, if God forbid they should have a tragedy or a claim in their life, I go out to see people at 3 o'clock in the morning. If a fire, God forbid, happens in their house, or pipe breaks, or they have a terrible car accident. The helping of the people is something that I really like to do. I've been doing it a long time, and I have experienced a lot of tragedies, but I've helped a lot of people too.
You know, when the notion of insurance comes up for all of us, we kind of are like, oh, I don't want to, I'm paying the bills for everything else. I don't want to do insurance. But you even mentioned to me just beforehand, when it comes to play, that you actually, God forbid, had a flood or something happened in your home or whatever it is, then all of a sudden you're saying, where's my insurance guy? And it really makes sense.
100%.
Right?
And you have to...
Cost effective and everything else.
You have to relay that to the client and to the people that work for you, that what you do brings value and helps people. You can't just see it all the time because you're normally just writing out a check to pay for something that annoys you. But in the event of a tragedy does occur, you want a good company and a good person to be on your side.
Out of all the things you could be doing on the 10th of March, which is coming up, what was it that made you say, I really ought to be at Bronx Day. This is an important place for me to be, and I want to be able to talk about what we've just talked about?
It's a great question. In relating to insurance, I've been here in the Bronx. My dad grew up in the Bronx. I've been doing business in the Bronx for many, many years. And I find that the Bronx is a very underserved community when it comes to insurance. People buy policies that aren't correct. They pay too much money for them. They don't understand what they're doing. So the reason I'm going to Albany is actually to try to teach people, get the message out that there are people here to help you. Also speak to some politicians about some of the crazy laws that affect the pricing for insurance and how some changes could be made to actually reduce the pricing of insurance going forward.
We talk about being underserved all the time on this program because I could start with healthcare and we could go through the entire list. Why are there challenges? What are the specific challenges for purchasing insurance in the Bronx that may be not either in other boroughs or in other cities or in other places?
It's terrible to say, but there's something in insurance called redlining. Insurance carriers are not allowed to redline.
That's part of our history in this borough, that's for sure.
And they are not supposed to charge more money based upon where the risk is located, but they do. And the reason they do that is if someone trips and falls and gets hurt in the Bronx, the insurance company thinks that a jury is going to award so much more money that if it happened upstate New York, Westchester, Nassau County, so they price.
That's curious. Why would they think that?
Because of the fact that juries in the Bronx have awarded greater settlements to people going forward than in other counties. So in Nassau County, someone trips and falls in the street and gets hurt, and their injuries are not severe. They hurt themselves. They're going to get money, but not as great. In the Bronx, the payouts could be much greater because of the jury's awards, and that's why carriers don't like it.
And so therefore the cost of insurance
Premiums
for
are
us
much higher.
That is fascinating. I don't know that if, I'm just trying to think correctively if there's a way to correct that, because on one hand, I think Bronx people feel like we deserve because we've been so oppressed by so many other things. On the other hand, it drives up the cost. I don't have an answer for it. I'm asking you a question, I don't have an answer.
But the way to correct that is by teaching the insurance industry about the Bronx, how the Bronx has changed over the years, how the regentrification of the Bronx is bringing the Bronx to coming out of the Stone Ages, where the risks can be underwritten correctly, effectively. Insurance companies can make money and they can provide the correct coverage. So that's really the key.
Now I know why you're decided to be up at Bronx Day, because that's the kind of message I think everybody in the Bronx wants
That's
to
what
hear.
you need.
You talked about laws. The New York labor law and the impact the law has had on insurance costs. You said that if you get a chance up there, to talk about...
it's a killer. The labor law is a killer.
Explain what it is that's a problem.
You own a building or a business in the Bronx or anywhere in the state of New York. It's anywhere in the state of New York, and we are the only state that has this law. You hire a contractor to come into your house. The contractor's a plumber or an electrician. He hurts himself on the job site. In every other state in the world, every other state in this country, you don't collect workman's compensation. With Labor Law 240, he's allowed to sue the owner of the building and the general contractor, and it's 100% liability. So what that means in English is the person hit the lottery and they get millions of dollars. This law's been on the books since 1910. It's very hard. They've tried many times to get it off, but the problem is that the trial lawyers in the state of New York have so much power with these legislators that they just cannot get rid of it, and it's a killer. And that drives up the cost of construction in every construction project in New York, be it the Bronx, Queens, anywhere, 30 or 40%, because the cost of insurance is just so ridiculous.
It is fascinating. I know some people who have applied for funding from the New York City Council, and they have all different kinds of businesses and organizations and all that, but they've had to pay. And he was like, wait a minute, why? Well, I'm just getting funding. Why do I need to get insurance? I guess it's because of these laws.
The labor law is a killer, and
Wow.
when you do business specifically with the city of New York or some sort of governmental entity, they want you to carry more insurance than you're probably going to carry on your own. And it just really inhibits the business. It's very expensive, but it's only been there since 1930, and it's not going away.
You had used the word regentrification.
Yes.
I mean, I've heard the word gentrification. I'm unfamiliar with regentrification.
I think I used the wrong word then, but the gentrification, the regentrification I would classify as the rebirth of the Bronx, where years ago the neighborhoods were rougher. But today, there's so much building and construction going on that there is a lot more life coming into the Bronx, which I think is wonderful. And I would like to be there to help and assist the growth of the Bronx by trying to help with writing the correct insurance and not having people pay ridiculous amounts of money.
I think people in the Bronx, and obviously I've been doing this here at Bronxnet for a very long time, I feel like we're undiscovered territory. You addressed that a little bit in the beginning. Nobody really knows who we are or what we do.
They're afraid.
I guess they are, but it's what made doing programs here on Bronxnet a joy, because we're doing stuff that nobody else talks about. What do insurance companies look for when they underwrite commercial risk, specifically related to the Bronx? That might apply to most areas, but what do insurance companies look for?
The first thing that they all look for, specifically in the Bronx, is that the sidewalks of the buildings that they're insuring are repaired, because most claims occur trip and falls on the sidewalk.
I'm sorry I'm smiling, but that's fascinating. Go ahead.
That's number one. Number two, they want to make sure that the buildings are maintained correctly, proper electrical, heating updates, that the buildings don't have 3 million violations with the building department. These are all things that the carriers do look at, and they look at it on an ongoing basis. So once you write a policy and then the policy comes up for renewal, they then come out and re-inspect again. But that's also a two-edged sword, which could be very well, because if you maintain your properties correctly, you underwrite it correctly, you have the correct risk transfer, then your pricing will be very competitively priced. So it depends. A lot of it depends upon the client and how they view their properties and how they maintain their stuff.
At the beginning, you were mentioning to me that all the different types of insurance, and that you work with commercial, personal, life, long-term care insurance, a strong focus on educating clients and simplifying complex insurance concepts. But medical insurance is a very big thing. People really need to have it. You know, some don't. I mean, I don't want to get into all the politics and everything else. But it's very expensive. Sometimes it doesn't cover some very basic things. What's your vision of the whole, panorama of medical insurance for people
Specifically
in the
in New
Bronx?
York State, specifically in New York State and in the Bronx. So New York State is what's called a community-rated state. That means the prices are set by the insurance companies in the state of New York. The policies that are provided by the insurance companies, they set the contract, they set the pricing. The average single for a group person I see today, for the decent policy, is over $1,000 a month.
$1,000 a month
A month for a single.
for a single person.
A husband and wife on a group policy with a decent policy could be paying upwards of $4,000 a month. The only way
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard, ladies and gentlemen. Mark it down. That's the craziest thing.
and it is the only way to reduce these policies premiums is, number one, to increase your deductible, go with a policy that may not be as broad in coverage. But back to your question as well, the claims process of insurance and how they view this, you know, they're tough when it comes to paying claims. They're very quick on denying. The problem with health insurance, and I'm not a proponent of the federal government having insurance, because I think that we're a capitalistic society and everyone should have their own. But that being said, the cost is too expensive, it's driving up the prices, and the only way to really underwrite policies correctly would be to somehow have the government step in some way so that they could subsidize the cost, because it's a very difficult thing to underwrite.
And then if it's not done, it ultimately costs in the long run for everybody.
Everybody.
Yeah. Let's just wrap it up. You're going to be there, Bronx Day in Albany, Tuesday, March 10th, at the Albany Capitol Center.
Yes, I am.
People should come by and say hello, and they can bring their questions. How's it going to work?
So during the day, there's a bunch of exhibits. At night, we're going to have a platform where people could walk by, ask questions. I'll be there at my booth. I'll be there with one of my associates. You could definitely ask as many questions as you like. My first goal and always goal is to educate someone into what they're purchasing. They have to understand what they're buying. Once they understand it, I feel much better about the transaction.
I'm thinking that people will really appreciate you, because as we just saw and heard today, you're a regular guy and you really want to help people.
100%.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is Larry Kahn. He's an insurance producer. I had never heard that title
From
before.
the Hilb Group.
From the Hilb Group, Hilb. Thank you so much for joining us
Gary,
on
it was
In
a
the
pleasure.
District and
Thank you
Bronxnet
very
Television. And that will do it for this segment, and we'll see you next time.